There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. We're gonna sing, we sing to the God. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause he hung upon that cross, then he rose up from the grave. My God still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet, but we should come on. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. I'm gonna sing, we were beggars. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. And again, we are the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Go! There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet, but we shout His joy. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet, but we shout out your praise.
Honestly, I want to talk on one-hit wonders. Now, when I say one-hit wonders, well, you're probably thinking, well, what on earth is he getting at this time? Yeah, you'd be right. Now, who can remember those tunes? Maybe they're just tunes when you were younger, or songs that stick in your mind because they got such a repetitive beat or such a catchy chorus. You know, you wake up one day and you think that song is still there from the previous day. It's just so catchy and the words just flow so easily off the tongue. And this band that has come up from nowhere has launched this song, and it's just gone global in an instant. It's gone global, and before you know it, everyone in school is singing it, people are singing it in the workplace. Now, if you've got young children, like we have, if you've got the Disney Channel, you know, there's a song that is going around at the moment, and it says something like, Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no. Everyone under the age of 30 is laughing. Everyone over the age of 30 is going, what? Ask your... Oh, sorry, I just offended someone. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, Ask your grandchildren. Parents with children, am I right? Yeah, they nodded. We don't talk about Bruno. No. But what I want to get into you, what I want to drill into you over the next few weeks is one-hit wonders that Jesus left with his disciples. Jesus, when he was with his followers, left some incredible words for them. And over the next few weeks, I want these words to stick in your mind so that when you get up out of bed, it's on your mind. When you go to sleep, it's on your mind. When you're in your car and you're driving to work, that this verse or these words just come to mind. And this week, I want to open this with these words that Jesus gave to his disciples. And it's this: remember Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife. From Luke's Gospel, chapter 17, verse 32. Now, out of all the things that Jesus could have said to his disciples to remember, you could have thought, well, remember to pray. You could have thought, well, remember, read your Bible. Remember, go to church. Remember, forgive others. Remember, tithe. Now, I want to say all of those things are good things to remember. But that's not what I want to highlight this morning. Remember Lot's wife. Now, to find out what Jesus was getting at here, we've got to go back to the Old Testament. And let me give you some context, because Jesus was speaking about what happened in Genesis chapter 19. And what's happened is Lot and his family, Lot's wife and his 2 daughters, they've just moved into a new neighborhood. They've decided where they're going to live. They decided that they're going to go for the place that is the trendy place to live. You know, that place that's got the extra garage, the dormer room upstairs, the driveway where you can get 2 cars in. It's got good Wi-Fi signal, it's got good schools so the children can go to. And Lot is there. He's decided to place his life. And the postcode of where Lot and his family have moved into is SGXXX. Sodom and Gomorrah, XXX. Because Lot and his family have moved into a place that was prosperous, that was going well, but it was prosperous for all the wrong reasons. It was prosperous and it was a thriving place, but it was thriving because of the sin that it had given it themselves over to, for the wrong things that they were living for the wrong way that they were living, for the wrong priorities that they had. And God looked down on Sodom and Gomorrah and he said, I've had enough of this place. My judgment is coming on to it. And God sends messengers to Lot and his family. And that's where we're going to pick up this story. He sends messengers to warn them. And he says, get out! Flee from Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm going to bring my judgment down on it. And you need to get out as soon as you can. And this is what it says in Genesis chapter 19, verse 15. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. Flee for your lives. Don't look back. And don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away. The air raid sirens were wailing across Sodom and Gomorrah, saying, get out, Lot, get out, go. Take your family with you. You don't want to be in this place any longer. Turn your back and run for the hills, because if you stay here, you and your family are gonna die. And then we get to Genesis chapter 19, verse 26. And it says this about Lot's wife. As the judgment of God was raining down on the city, it says this, as they were leaving. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. In an instant, Lot's wife was killed. In an instant, Lot's wife went from fleeing the city to losing her life and being turned into a pillar of salt. And that's what Jesus said to remember. Remember Lot's wife. As she looked back, I wonder what it was she was looking back at. Maybe it was memories that she held of that city. Maybe it was a longing perhaps not to have fled from it. Maybe it was a longing to actually want to stay in that city and not wanting to turn her back on it and not wanting to go on to all the things that God had for her. But she turned and she looked back and she died. You see, let me tell you folks, distraction can kill you. Turning back to your past can be far more dangerous than you realize. Clinging to the past, Lot's wife was unable to turn completely towards God because she had a foot in the past. And I want to say Lot's wife came as close to deliverance without actually achieving it as possible. She was so close. She was brought out of the doomed city and she was set on the right path to flee. But because she looked back, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Because she lingered, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Because she was distracted and not wanted to go on and be brought out of the sin and the destruction that God had rained down on that city, she lost her life. She was caught up in the destruction of the city. And I want to say this to you this morning, and if there's something to write down this morning, it is this. You can't make progress with God as long as you are holding on to the pieces of your past. Let me say that again. You can't make progress with God while you're still holding on to the pieces of your past. Those past pieces could be past pieces of pain. They could be past pieces of pain, maybe of something that you went through, and perhaps for you it's become something that you relive regularly. Maybe it's pain that you bring up in every conversation, or maybe it's pain that is just consuming your mind from the past. Can I say to you this morning, you might have to let go of pain to go on with God. You might have to let go of the past pleasures that you had to go on with God. Anyone think, oh man, before I was a Christian, I could live how I wanted. I did this, I did that. Listen, folks, we've got to let them go. Maybe past privileges that you had, you've got to let go of. Can I say, let go of them so you can move on. But let me say this. Lot's wife was killed in the moment. But in any moment, there's usually been a process to get you to that stage of life where something happens and devastation just comes. And it's the same for Lot and his family. You see, that moment of Lot fleeing the town with his family, fleeing the destruction, you could plot back earlier and you could think, well, really, Lot, you probably didn't actually want to get out of that city. You read further back in the story, and Lot was always a reluctant follower of God. Lot never had a spirit which said, God, I'm going after you completely. He was always had a bit of his foot in the past. And he wanted to hold on to it. And there was a gradual disintegration of Lot and his family's morality. Of Lot and his family standing with God. You have a game of chess. And the person who wins, their goal is to get the opponent into checkmate. And it might take 17 moves to get your opponent into checkmate. It might take 60 moves to get the opponent into checkmate so that you've beaten them. And you could look back at that game of chess and you could say, well, I wonder which move was it that really, which one was the one that got the victor into the position where he could checkmate his opponent. And really, folks, it could be at any of those moves. At any of those moves, the opponent could have tried to get out of the victor's tactics. At any of those moments, something could have been done where checkmate could have been averted. And it's the same with Lot and his family. Lot could have done things earlier on to save his wife, to go a different path. But he didn't. Let me give you some things that Lot did in his life. The first thing was this. You go back to the earlier chapters in Genesis chapter 13 and it talks about Lot. In verse 12 it says, Lot lived among the cities of the plain and pitched his tents near Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. Lot decided early on, folks, where he wanted to live. And Lot made a bad decision to pitch his tent next to the evil city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Before long, Lot and his family, they start on the periphery, but before long, they're right in the centre of the town. And I can imagine perhaps Lot going there to start off with thinking, oh no, I'm not going to be like the people of this town. I'm going to be able to stand out. I'm going to be able to hold my ground. I'm going to be able to be different. But before long, Lot and his family are sucked in, and they're doing the things that everyone else in the city is doing. Rather than stand out, rather than take a stand and stand separately to the city, he blends in far too well. And you know what? For your life, for my life, we want to stand out. We want to be a different people. And folks, we've got to be careful that we don't blend in so well with our surroundings that we just become like everyone else. That we don't become like everyone else at school. That we don't become like everyone else in the workplace, laughing at the same jokes that they do, going to the same places that they do, watching everything that they do. But we need to stand out, and we need to stand our ground. See, where you pitch the tent of your life for you and your family is of utmost importance. And when we take these decisions, Lot moved into postcode SGXXX. He moved in it. We need to have eternity in mind when we make life's decisions. We need to have eternity in mind when we're taking this job. We need to have eternity in mind when we're deciding who we're going to marry. We need to have eternity in mind when we decide what we're going to do with our Sundays. We need to watch where we pitch our tents. But another thing that Lot did that just stands out as a deterioration of his life and how he was going on, he also hesitated. In chapter 19, verse 16, it says, when he hesitated. For some things in the Christian life, we need counsel. For some things in the Christian life, we need to seek advice from others. For some things in the Christian life and in seasons in the Christian life, we need to wait in God, and we need to be patient, and with long suffering, we need to go through situations steadily. But in other situations, we do not need to hesitate, folks. In other situations, we need to flee. And Lot and his family, as they were fleeing, as God gave them the message to flee out of Sodom and Gomorrah, it says that Lot hesitated. God has already sent them the messenger to say, get out. And yet Lot is wondering what to do. You don't need to wait for an answer for God to run away from sin. You don't need to wait for an answer from God to say no to certain stuff in your life. Just do it. The meaning of hesitation, I looked it up and I got some other words for you that go along with hesitation. It says to be reluctant, to wait, to act because of fear. To be indecisive, to be unwilling, to pause, to waver, to dither, or to stumble, or to flounder. And I really like this last word. To dilly-dally. Lot was escaping the judgment of God, and he dilly-dallied. He didn't run, he hung around. Joseph in the Bible, in the Old Testament, is a man, a great example of someone who ran from sin as quick as he could. When the woman came after him, trying to grab his cloak, he ran, he got out there. And sometimes, folks, we need to do the opposite to what Lot did and his family. And we just need to run without hesitation. Let me give you the third thing that Lot tried to do with God as he was fleeing. As he was fleeing Sodom and Gomorrah, it's in verse 20. He basically started bargaining with God. Because in verse 20 it says, here is a small town. As God says, leave to the mountains, Lot starts getting in a discussion with the messengers of God, and the angels, he says, here is a small town, near enough for me to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. Can I say, some people here, when you get on the phone, maybe you're buying something, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're looking for a new car, or maybe sometimes it's a telephone deal, or maybe it's a subscription, and you ring the person up, you say, well, I've seen somewhere else that I could get the deal a little bit cheaper over here. And they say, well, maybe we could come back down a little bit, and another time, some people, they just love bargaining, they try and get everyone down on the quotes. Other people, I think I'm obviously a sucker. I just take it. I take it. I just think, oh, I haven't got the time to do that. I just take it and I'll get on. But some people love to get a good deal. Can I say, folks, take God's deal that He has given to you. You don't need to bargain with God. Lot tried to bargain with God and say, oh God, I don't want messages of God. I don't want to run to the mountains where it's completely safe. Let me just stay here in this place, which was still fairly close to Sodom and Gomorrah. He bargained with God. Can I say, folks, you don't need to do that. And the reason you don't need to do that is because God has your best interests at heart. Rather than trying to say, God, yeah, I'll do this when you've answered my prayer. Anyone ever done that before? I'm going to admit, folks, I have. God, I'll do this way if you just sort this situation out. God, I'll tithe when I get the new job. God, I'll do this, I'll forgive that person when this problem is sorted out. Can I say, folks, don't bargain with God. He's already got your best interests at heart. Do what He says, no matter what the cost. Do what He says, even if it hurts. Do what He says, even before your prayers get answered. Forgive someone even before they've forgiven you. Pray for someone even when you know that they don't like you or they've done something behind your back. Do something without wanting to get anything back in return. You don't have to bargain with God. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 39 says this, but we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. We don't belong to those people who look to the past. We don't belong to the people who want to go back to the life we had. We don't belong to the people who are hesitant in going forward with God. But folks, we've thrown everything in with God and we say, God, we trust you. God, we trust you with our future. God, we trust you with our lives. Lord, that the past might have been attractive in some ways, but I want to go on with you. Lord, the past, maybe it was painful in some ways, and I'm tempted to go back there and relive it over and over again, but I want to let that go, and I want to move forward with you. God, I recognize that in the past I had some privileges because that was part of my life and that was what I was involved with in the past. But God, I'm leaving that all behind because you said, remember Lot's wife. And you want to move forward into all that God has for you. I came across this quote and I thought it was great. Occasionally, weep deeply over the life you hoped would be. Grieve the losses. Then wash your face. Trust God and embrace the life that you have. Come on, let's bow our heads in prayer.